Morning everybody, I'm Dr. Sky Scott from Health with Heart, and I'm here to take you on a diabetes journey. It's very exciting. We are here to tell you that you can change your genes, reverse your pathology, and optimize and revitalize your life. The first learning point for today is that cells need glucose or use glucose to make energy. The first thing that happens is when you eat something that contains sugar or carbohydrates, that gets broken down through a whole cascade of hormonal and chemical messengers, and your bloodstream absorbs this influx of glucose. Now, this influx of glucose can't just stay here. It needs to be taken out of your bloodstream to all of the vital places that require it, especially your brain and your muscle. So now you have this surge or influx of glucose swimming around your vascular system in your bloodstream. And you need a transporter to load up all of that glucose and take it to your brain, to your muscles, to your kidneys, to your nerves, all the places that require energy production. And what is that transporter called? We call that transporter insulin. And I want you to imagine insulin like a little truck that's loading up all of the sugar cubes and shunting them off out of your bloodstream to all the vital places where they are required. Now I'd like to introduce the concept of equilibrium. Equilibrium is something that is central to homeostasis, and homeostasis is the perfect balance and harmony of all of the stimulating and calming systems of our bodies. For every antagonistic effect, there is an agonistic effect. Every system that has a hormone to stimulate has a messenger to switch off that stimulation. It really is this perfect conversation between switching on and switching off. And the same is true of glucose metabolism. If you flood your system with sugar and refined carbohydrates relentlessly and consistently above and beyond your daily requirements, what is your body going to do to try and shunt all of the sugar out of your bloodstream? It's going to upregulate your insulin. So your insulin is going to go up to try and accommodate and manage the unmanageable load of sugar that's circulating in your bloodstream. Now I'm going to introduce you to the insulin receptor. All of the cells that require glucose have insulin receptors, and so the little insulin truck drives along with its load of sugar, docks at the receptor, offloads the sugar into the cell, and relieves your bloodstream of the excess of sugar that we've been describing. Now, like I explained before, if you overstimulate any system in the body is going to respond by backing down. And how does it do that in this context? What it does is it down-regulates those receptors. So those receptors actually get a message to self-destruct in the presence of this avalanche of circulating insulin. So the more you push your insulin up, the more overstimulated these poor receptors become, and they begin to down-regulate themselves, which makes your cells less sensitive to the effect of insulin. And as this progresses, you have high insulin, down-regulation of the receptors to receive the insulin message and absorb the sugar. And once the system begins to fail, you have increased levels of circulating sugar in your bloodstream. This is a spectrum, and we start with pre-diabetes and continue all the way to a diagnosis of diabetes. And the sooner on the spectrum that you stop and make change, the sooner you can rehabilitate the system so that your receptors can become sensitive again, your blood sugar levels can drop, and your insulin levels can come down. Remember that insulin is not only a transporter for sugar. It also inhibits fat breakdown, tells your body to store more fat cells, and turns excess sugar into triglycerides and stuffs them into fat cells and locks them in. All in all, a recipe for obesity, insulin resistance, fatigue, Alzheimer's, amputations, all sorts of disastrous things that we'll talk more about in another video with you. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you learned something.